statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Stacking harder has become sort of the tagline of mine that I use on virtually every single post that I make here on X. And it is apropos for what we are going to speak about or talk about today. What we're going to talk about today, the topic that we're going to tackle today, specifically delves into the concept of stacking Bitcoin and what method of stacking Bitcoin has been proven to be the best. And so come on in, guys. Welcome once again. Make yourselves comfortable. Grab the beverage of your choice. Maybe even grab something to take notes with. I do so enjoy doing these live spaces. I've experimented with the video form of these spaces, but after doing a poll on which one the audience here preferred, it was overwhelmingly in favor of the voice type of spaces, largely because people like to multitask and do things other while they're actually listening to the space. So I understood that, and as a result of that, I do the vast majority of these talks via voice only, and that's perfectly fine with me. I do want to make it clear to everyone, especially those who are listening to me for the first time, that each one of these live spaces, they are recorded, so you'll always be able to come back and re-listen to parts that you may have missed or need further clarification on, whether you missed a point or so. So that's always available to you. I also want you to be aware of the fact that each one of these live spaces winds up being an episode on my Bitcoin podcast entitled Bitcoin Unleashed. You can find Bitcoin Unleashed on pretty much all of the popular podcasting platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, things of that nature. So I strongly encourage that if you find anything that we discuss here of interest, please go over to Bitcoin Unleashed on your favorite podcasting platform and take a listen to some of the other topics that we've talked about, tackled, gone down the rabbit hole on. They're all Bitcoin related, especially if you are somewhat new to the Bitcoin space. I strongly encourage that you do that. I've decided to dedicate, guys, over the last 30 plus years, I have been traveling the globe every single year with the sole purpose of raising the level of financial sophistication. And I took on this task after starting in the financial world in the early 1980s, early to mid 1980s. I've been involved in the traditional financial space largely as a trader for the past 43 years, and began spreading the gospel of financial freedom and independence over 30 years ago. This year, I'm scheduled to be in 4 different continents, 19 different cities. And I've been doing that for the past 30 years. I decided back in 2020, that's about 4 years ago, to incorporate Bitcoin in my talks, my speeches, and my travels. It's become a central point because, lo and behold, there is nothing that we've ever had contact with, ever had access to as a human species that delivers what I was talking about for the past 30 years better than Bitcoin: financial freedom, financial independence, and self-sovereignty. And so today, I actually decided that it was time for us here to talk about the different styles of trying to get more Bitcoin. And I decided to tackle this topic because I received a variety of different comments today that touched on dollar cost averaging, lump sum investing into Bitcoin, which one's better. A small debate sort of broke out amongst some of the members of the community. And I felt it was a great topic for us to touch upon. So listen, guys, everything that you hear from me is not necessarily financial advice. It is my view and my take on the matter. And you take it for what it's worth. All right. I have 10 things that I hope that I'm going to be able to touch upon during this talk. A lot of times I don't. A lot of times I actually don't get to all of the bullet points. I'm going to really try hard to get to all of the bullet points because I believe they're so crucial to our talk today. If I do have ample time after getting through those bullet points to take some of your questions, I will. I do not deliver the type of spaces where I pass the mic to you and we have a variety of different people fumbling with their mic and the noise in the background and things of that nature. I just don't do that. I found that the style with which I deliver the limited amount of information and knowledge that I have to share is best done through a monologue form. Now, I strongly encourage your questions. I believe that your questions sort of add a unique flavor to each one of our talks. You can ask anything that your heart desires. There's no topic that is off limits as far as I'm concerned. Even if you feel that the topic is somewhat harsh, trust me, I'm a big boy. I can handle it. All right. So ask your questions, ask away. Now, let's delve in, guys. The topic of our talk is dollar cost averaging versus lump sum investing. I'm going to add that word to it, even though that word is not in the title. Dollar cost averaging into a Bitcoin position versus just lump sum investing versus timing tops and bottoms to accumulate your Bitcoin stash. These three styles of getting to more Bitcoin are the three most popular or the three most talked about approaches. And I'd like to touch upon each one of them and reveal to you my thoughts, my opinions about each style and which one I believe is overall the best. All right. And so let's begin. Let's begin. Now, I've got a little tea here. I'm going to take a little sip of my tea here. The first thing I think it's necessary for us to establish is that I am speaking from the point, I'm speaking from an assumption. I'm speaking from a premise that everyone listening to me here understands the value proposition of Bitcoin to the point where they do want to accumulate more Bitcoin. I am springboarding my talk here tonight. It's nighttime in my part of the world. I'm springboarding my talk from that premise that all of us here have one goal, one end goal, and that is to be wealthier. That is to be better off in the future. And that Bitcoin, and that we all see Bitcoin as a vehicle that might be able to deliver that. And so our talk is going to be based on that premise, and we're going to delve into which style is best suited for accomplishing that. Before we delve into those styles, it's important for us to understand that Bitcoin does not have the traditional annual or yearly birthday that most things in the traditional financial world has. You see, the traditional financial world and all of the assets that fall into that category, they operate on an annualized basis. So, for instance, a company has an annual report. We report all of the performance figures in large part of bonds and equities, that stocks and things of that nature based on annual performance numbers. Bitcoin has come into our lives to basically teach us in a way that that is actually incorrect. It's too small of an integer to measure performance. The measuring of performance in annual increments leads to a barrage of errors, um, erroneous assumptions, faulty beliefs. And as a result of those faulty beliefs and errors and erroneous assumptions, um, inferior actions and therefore poor results will tend to follow. It's too short of a time frame. So Bitcoin is coming to our lives to teach us that the more perfect integer, the more perfect time frame is a 4-year time frame, not an annual time frame. And so Bitcoin operates on a 4-year cycle, more or less, okay? A 4-year cycle. So in a sense, in a very real sense, it's almost like today. Today is February 29th. It's the one time in every 4 years that we have an extra day in the year. All right, February traditionally has 28 days, but every 4 years it has 29 days. We call this day leap day, or we call this, leap day. And as a result of it being leap day, we call this year, 2024, a leap year. Okay. Bitcoin operates on a leap year, almost as if its birthday comes every 4 years. And what it really, in my opinion, is teaching by having a birthday every 4 years is that everything in between birthdays is practically noise. That all the ups and downs, all the stories, all the narratives, all the news articles, all the opinions, all of the price predictions, all of the so-called volatility that happens in between these birthdays of Bitcoin, they actually don't matter. That what you can literally do is, like Rip Van Winkle, go to sleep on Bitcoin's birthday, wake up 4 years later on its next birthday, and then make your assessment, then make your judgment, then set your opinion about what Bitcoin is, what Bitcoin has done, its performance, its new position after its next birthday. We do this with every financial instrument that has ever existed. But prior to Bitcoin, we've done it every single year. Well, with Bitcoin, we're supposed to do it every 4 years. Now, Bitcoin has been in existence for the past 15 years. And so if you judge Bitcoin at any 4-year period, okay, Bitcoin has never failed on a performance basis. Bitcoin has never failed on a price increase basis. Bitcoin has never failed to increase one's wealth, increase one's value on a 4-year basis. And so this 4-year period represents one cycle, one birthday, one cycle in Bitcoin's eternal life. Okay. So it's important for us to understand that, because what we're supposed to do, knowing that as Bitcoiners, is we're supposed to use that 4-year cycle to catapult ourselves to catapult our lives, to catapult our value, to catapult our position, our wealth, our standing, our families. We're supposed to use those 4 years to be higher in all of those categories the following 4 years. Okay? And so this is the basis. This has to form the foundation of our talk today, that we're looking to use one of Bitcoin's 4-year cycles, one of its birthday periods, one of its cycles to basically change our lives for the better. But what method is best to use a single cycle of Bitcoin? What approach is best to come out from one birthday to the next with more wealth, more value, more independence, more freedom, more Bitcoin? Which method gets us there? We don't want less value 4 years later. We want more value. We don't want to be less wealthy 4 years later. We want to be more wealthy. We want to be wealthier. We want to have more value 4 years later. Okay? And so this leads us to the three most dominant approaches to try to accomplish that: dollar cost averaging, lump sum investing, and timing tops and bottoms. Okay? Now, let's touch upon the definitions as I see them of each one of those. Dollar cost averaging. All right. When I speak of dollar cost averaging, I am talking about taking one of three different time frames: daily, weekly being the most popular, or monthly. Now, there are other time frames: quarterly, even annually. But the three most dominant time frames for dollar cost averaging, in my view, are daily, weekly, or monthly. Now, out of those three, I'd like to take the most dominant and what I've considered to be the most appropriate of those three: the weekly buy of Bitcoin, or the weekly conversion into Bitcoin. All right, that's the one I want to focus on. When I speak of dollar cost averaging, I am talking about taking a specific portion, either a single dollar amount, a set dollar amount of the income that you make living your life, providing value for the world, whatever you do to provide value to your fellow man, to provide value to human society, whatever you do to earn an income for delivering value to the world, you are to take it. You are either going to take a specific dollar amount of that income or a specific percentage of that income every single week, and you're going to convert it into Bitcoin. That is what I mean by dollar cost averaging. When I speak, every single time that I mention dollar cost averaging here on X, or in any medium for that matter, that is what is in my mind: a weekly conversion of a specific dollar amount, like $100 or $50 a week, whatever the number is. You're going to stick to that number, and every single week, your purpose is singular in nature. It is simply to get more Bitcoin every single week of your life. With this weekly dollar cost averaging, you are to ignore price. You are to ignore what is going on in the world. You're to ignore any and all narratives that are popular at the time. You are to ignore the items so-called volatility. You are to ignore news. You're to ignore what's going on in the political scene, the geopolitical scene. You're to ignore everything. And if you are familiar with my work on dollar cost averaging, I've done a study over Bitcoin's 15-year life, and have found that of all the days of the week that's the most appropriate, there is a 24-hour period in almost every week in the week that is statistically better than all the other 24 hours of the entire week. And that is the 24 hours that starts my time. I'm using Eastern time, all right, New York time, let's say, all right. Six, I would say from midday Sunday to midday Monday using New York time. Now, I've done studies on this, and while it is not perfect, anyone who has been following this weekly dollar cost averaging using that 24-hour period, Sunday afternoon to Monday afternoon, they have statistically come out with more Bitcoin than if they did a Tuesday, if they did a Thursday, a Wednesday, a Saturday, a Friday, or what have you. All right. I've done that study. All right. And if anyone has been following that, they can attest to the fact that it's pretty damn good. All right. So that is what dollar cost averaging is. Now, I have a group of Bitcoiners that are they're members of my private Bitcoin club. We go into more sophisticated forms of dollar cost averaging. I have an institutional style or approach to dollar cost averaging that is even designed to get more. I don't want to go into the more sophisticated or the juiced up form of dollar cost averaging, or what I call dollar cost averaging on steroids. I don't want to go into that. This is not the forum for that, but I do want you to understand that there are even more sophisticated forms of this dollar cost averaging approach. But for the purposes of our talk, I want you to understand that is what I mean by dollar cost averaging. Picking a specific day or a specific 24-hour period every single week, keeping that time the same and keeping the amount the same. So if it's $50, it doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter where the price is. You're putting $50 in every single week of your life during that 24-hour period or during the day that you've chosen. All right, that's dollar cost averaging. Now, the second style is lump sum. Now, when lump sum investing usually comes into play when a person has a certain amount of capital that they intend on deploying into Bitcoin. And let's say that certain amount is $10,000. All right, let's keep the number simple. It could be 1,000, it could be 10,000, it could be 100,000, it could be a million. It doesn't matter. But you have a lump sum. Now, what's better with the lump sum? Is it better to just keep the lump sum on the side and just ease in with a dollar cost averaging approach until you deploy the entire 10,000? Or is it better to just take the 10,000 and dump it into Bitcoin all at once, at one point, one day, one moment, and you're in? All right. That's typically when lump sum becomes a topic, when someone has more than their weekly amount available and they want this amount to be in Bitcoin. But how do they get the lump in? Do they break it up into 4 parts and do one part every month? Do they ease it in over a 4-month period? Or do they just dump it all in? Okay. Well, that's what lump sum is. Lump sum comes into play when you all of a sudden come into a decent amount, a lump sum that's way over and beyond what you're doing on a weekly basis. How do you deploy that? That's lump sum. All right. We'll talk about that. Now, timing tops and bottoms. Okay. This approach is where a trader is trying to get more Bitcoin by buying into the 4-year cycle at the bottom, selling Bitcoin, either a portion of it or all of it near the top, waiting for the next cycle to occur, drop, have its bear market, take that amount, go in near the bottom again. Bitcoin rises during its secondary fourth cycle. They sell a portion or all of it near the top and repeat, repeat, repeat. All right. That's the timing approach to getting more and more Bitcoin or more and more wealth. All right. So now that we've got those three styles out of the way and how I define them, the $64,000 question is, which style is better? And I will tell you that this is not a simple answer, because every person's scenario is different. But I have to start somewhere. And so I'm going to start with an assumption that the majority of you are open. Okay. But I will say this. I will say that the answer largely depends on what your time frame is. Time frame does matter. And so before I give you the answer in terms of what I believe is the best, I do want to let you know that I believe that Bitcoin is not something. I believe that Bitcoin represents freedom, that Bitcoin gives us an exit strategy outside of a system that has failed us, that continues to fail us, and that continues to steal from us and make our lives harder every 4 years. We are trapped in a system that is designed to make us run on the hamster wheel harder and faster every 4 years to get the same thing that we got the last 4 years. It is designed to make us have to run harder, to work harder and longer for the same groceries. The last 4 years, we had to run only 1.5 hours to get groceries to feed the family. Now next 4 years, we have to run 3 hours to get the same groceries to feed my family. And the next 4 years, we have to run 4.5 hours to get the same groceries to feed my family. And the next 4 years, I have to run 5.5 hours to get the same groceries to feed my family. We're trapped in a system that makes us poorer, that makes us slave harder for the very same thing every 4 years of our lives until we die. That is a form of financial slavery, and we have no power over that. In my opinion, and I've reached the point where it's not my opinion, Bitcoin has come to free us from that. Bitcoin is freedom from that system. It does not partake in the system that's designed to make life harder every 4 years. It is outside of the system, and it is the antithesis of that system. It's the mirror opposite of that system. It's designed to be the opposite side of the coin, where every 4 years you work less to feed your family. Every 4 years you get wealthier, not poorer. Every 4 years you have to work less. And so Bitcoin, being freedom from this system that we are trapped in and cannot change, do not have the power of change. We can't change it by voting new politicians in office. That's a joke. We can't change it by rallying to get new laws placed on the books because the old laws don't protect us. That's a joke. The only exit from this slavery, the only chance we have to free ourselves is Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin represents that freedom, it is something, in my opinion, that should not be sold. It is something that should be accumulated and held dear forever. It should be something that's passed down, like the farm in your family, or the heirloom, or the trove of real estate that you've accumulated over your lifetime, and you're going to pass it on from generation to generation. This is my view. My view is that freedom is not for sale. That it makes no sense to exit slavery and say, well, wait a minute, but when should I sell? Now that I have my freedom, when should I sell my freedom to go back to slavery, Oliver? Tell me. So I want you to understand that that is my view. And if you understand my view, you will automatically go right to the point where timing Bitcoin to get more becomes a very dangerous thing. So with that being established, which one can artfully get the person more freedom? Bitcoin. Which style has proven to be the best over time? And that is, drum roll, dollar cost averaging. On average, no pun intended, dollar cost averaging, especially during the bear cycle of Bitcoin, statistically makes the person wealthier at the end of the 4-year cycle, makes the person have more Bitcoin, guaranteed to have more Bitcoin at the end of the 4-year cycle. Now, lump sum investing has its benefits as well. Lump sum comes into play when you have more than you are weekly dedicating to Bitcoin. You get a payment from someone that owed you money, and you don't need this to live your life on a day-to-day basis. You want that in Bitcoin. This person finally paid their debt to you. You want that in Bitcoin. What's better to do? Dollar cost average it in or dump it in? Studies have shown dumping the lump sum in wins, in that case, over dollar cost averaging. That studies have proven that you wind up better off dumping it all in one moment, one time, one price, one day, one instant. In, and you're done. Now, some might be saying, well, Oliver, this sort of goes against what you just said. You just said that dollar cost averaging statistically shows that the person at the end of 4 years consistently will always have more Bitcoin. Then how can lump summing in at one price beat that if you just said dollar cost averaging is superior? Well, you see, dollar cost averaging is the best when you are using a percentage of your mined dollars, your mined fiat, to go in weekly. That is the approach. Lump summing is better when you have more than that weekly amount. So what I mean is this. There are some people that say, I don't want to do weekly, Oliver. I'm going to save up my dollars for the next several months and then lump sum in. No, that is what is inferior to doing it every week. So let's say, for instance, you have two people here. You've got two people. Both are going to put $100 a week of their income into Bitcoin. I mean, both of them are going to put let's just say $2,000 into Bitcoin. Both of them are going to put $2,000 into Bitcoin. One of them is going to put the $2,000 in as they earn an income, and they're going to put it in $100 a week at a time. As they make income, they put $100 a week at a time. That's Bitcoiner number one. Bitcoiner number two says, I'm going to take the $100 and save it in my checking account or in my savings account or in my money market account. I'm going to save the $100 up every single week until I get $2,000. And when I have $2,000, I'm going to lump sum in. No, no, no. That does not beat the Bitcoiner 2 will wind up with less statistically than Bitcoiner 1, who says, no, I'm doing it every single week. I'm not going to wait for my cash levels to get hefty and then put the hefty amount in. No. So dollar cost averaging that $2,000 in as you're earning it will statistically outperform the one that's going to save up their dollars first until they have a decent $2,000 to lump sum in. No. So in those two instances, the dollar cost averager wins. When does the lump sum investor win? The lump sum investor wins this way. They get this lump sum all of a sudden. Okay? They get this lump sum all of a sudden. There are two, let's go back to the example. Bitcoiner 1 and Bitcoiner 2, they get a lump sum of $2,000 at the same time. Bitcoiner 1 decides that I'm going to lump sum the $2,000 in. I wasn't expecting this $2,000. I don't need it. All right. I'm going to just drop it into Bitcoin right now, today. Boom, smash buy. That's Bitcoiner 1. Bitcoiner 2 got a $2,000 unexpected lump sum too. Bitcoiner 2 also wants the $2,000 in, but he's concerned with the price volatility. So he says, I'm going to actually ease the $2,000 in $100 a week at a time. No, the lump sum Bitcoiner in that instance statistically wins. All right. So I want you to understand, you have to, I don't want you to get confused. It's somewhat similar, but the scenarios are quite different. If you're sitting on cash that you intend to deploy, but you're trying to ease it in, that will not over time get you more Bitcoin than dumping the whole amount now. Doesn't matter now. Okay? But dollar cost averaging wins if you're earning weekly and you're putting in weekly versus earning weekly, saving up, and then putting in a lump sum after you've saved up. The dollar cost averager wins in that scenario. All right? So lump sum has its specialty. It is king of extra lump sum cash that I have available now. I'm not breaking this up. I'm not easing in. I'm a Bitcoiner. Bitcoin is freedom. I don't want freedom in pieces. I want it all now. Boom, all in. But if I'm going to earn dollars every week, I'm going to get some Bitcoin every week. That's the winner there. All right. Now, the last one is timing. I get this all the time. Well, Oliver, what about me trying to get more Bitcoin by coming out of it when it's high and getting back into it when it's low? Won't I wind up beating the dollar cost averager who never gets out, who just keeps every single week buying? So understand what I'm saying when I say timing bottoms and tops. The timer says, I'm going to buy into Bitcoin. I'm going to dollar cost average for a while. I'm even going to lump sum for a while, but I'm going to stop dollar cost averaging when it's high. I'm going to stop lump summing in when I get an unexpected lump sum amount. I'm not putting that in when it's high. I'm not dollar cost averaging when it's high. If I get lump sum cash, it stays cash. My earnings every week stays cash now because I believe Bitcoin is high. I'm now going to sell what I dollar cost averaged in the past, what I lump summed in the past. I'm going to sell that or sell a portion of it. I'm going to wait for Bitcoin to drop to start my dollar cost averaging and lump summing in again. I'm going to do it in phases like a trader. Now, I've been a trader for 43 years of my life, guys. This is the only thing I've ever done with my entire life is trade. I started very young and I still trade to this very day. I don't trade Bitcoin. I trade everything else for Bitcoin. All right. Now, how does this perform? Well, it forms the timing tops and bottoms to start dollar cost averaging at the bottom again and to sell out of it at the top and repeat when it falls. And this is the number one strategy of all. This timing beats all strategies in your dreams. That's right. You are the star of your dream. You are the best timer on planet Earth in your dreams. Do you understand? So when you're sleeping and you're the main character and you're having a dream as a Bitcoiner in your dream, that is when timing tops and bottoms and pulling this off like you're a freaking master works better than anything else out there. But when you freaking wake up from your dream in the morning with the crust between your eyes, when you wake up to freaking reality, this is bullshit. You will do the worst with that strategy. Not only will you wind up with far less Bitcoin than the other two forms, all right? Not only will you wind up with less, you are highly likely to wind up with none. This is the worst approach of all in real life. It's the best approach when you're dreaming. It's the best approach if you're writing a script for a freaking Disney movie. But it isn't, and you're the main character in the Disney movie called Bitcoin Timer. All right. It's great then. Dreams and writing Disney movie scripts. But in real life, this doesn't work. It sounds great. It sounds logical, even. Buy low, sell high, Oliver. And now listen, not in this life, not on this planet. Now listen, I cannot speak for other planets. I don't know how other people on other planets, other species will perform with the timing approach of Bitcoin. Maybe they have some superior insight. I have yet to do intergalactic travel, but I will tell you this. I am as certain as night follows the day that you try to time your way by buying and selling to a bigger stack than the lump summer and the DCAer. I am telling you, you will be left so far in the freaking dust that you are highly likely to get so dejected, so depressed, and so disappointed that you leave Bitcoin forever. It will be out to eliminate you. You see, we tend to, and this is coming from a 4-decade experienced trader. There are not many people in this world who can time markets and trade better than me. I'm sorry if that sounds egotistical. I'm sorry. The truth is the truth. And I won't even do that. I have done the studies for you guys. I have looked at over 1,000 cases. I've gone through every forum there is, all the way back 15 years, I've looked at I've tried to find every single case of a timer. I've looked at everyone who had thousands of Bitcoin, and over 95% of them are not in Bitcoin today. Why? Because they sold. They tried to time it. They felt it was too high. They felt that they'd gone through a crash before. And they're like, I'm not going through a crash the next time. I'm going to let the crash, I'm going to sell out on the rally. I'm going to let the crash happen. And when the crash happens, I'm going to go back in and this is better for me. No, they are all gone. They all have less Bitcoin than you do today. Most of them are not even in Bitcoin anymore because they tried to do this. You are the star of your own movie in your own mind. But when it comes to reality, you can't do this. And there are reasons why you can't do this, guys. Because first of all, Bitcoin is an 80 vol asset. Do you understand what an 80 vol asset is? It's mathematically impossible to consistently trade successfully an 80 vol asset. That's number one. Number two, because most assets aren't even close to an 80 vol asset. All right. So Bitcoin's an 80 vol asset. It is like riding the wildest buck or the wildest bull out there. You can stay on it, but only for a few seconds. It's not going to happen. You'll regard that few seconds you stayed on as skill, but it's not skill. You can't trade consistently well an 80 vol asset. That's reason number one. Reason number two, 85%, guys, of all of Bitcoin's gains, all of them, Bitcoin is the best performing asset the world has ever encountered. It has the number one record by a long shot in every conceivable category, by every metric you can measure. 5-year, 3-year, 2-year, 1 year, 10-year, 15-year. There is nothing close to Bitcoin's record. All right. It's the best performing item the world has ever had access to. I lost my thought where I was going with this. I always do this. I go too far out from the point. But anyway, it's the best performing asset in the world. But yet it's an 80 vol asset. 85% of all of those gains, that's where I was going with this. Being the best performing asset in the history of the world, 85% of all of that amazing performance comes between 10 and 13 days every single year. I am going to repeat this. This is something, if you have something close to you to write down or jot down, you should do this right here. 85% of all of Bitcoin's gains come over a random 10 to 13 days every single year. These days are random. They have no order. Do you understand? If you miss the 10 best days of Bitcoin, you're negative. Do you understand me? If you miss the 10 best days, the best performing asset the world has ever known, you're negative. Think about this. You could hold Bitcoin all year and miss the best 10 and you're negative. This is the case for the past 15 years. How do you trade that? You can't. I've done the mathematical models on this. I've done the back testing. And guys, let me just tell you this. With 4 decades of trading experience, amassing an amount of wealth doing that most people will probably never have access to. If I won't do it, then I know the vast majority of you shouldn't do it. I can trade anything else on planet Earth, but I'm not going to trade that. I might get lucky. I might even have a decent winning streak, but I know that's not gains. That's just loans. And when Bitcoin's 80 vol nature, and when Bitcoin's 10 to 13 day a year nature wakes up and comes from me, it's coming to take back all of what doesn't belong to me. You see, I can luck into gains over a few months, even a year or two. But I know if I keep doing it, I am doomed. The math will catch up to me. And if it will catch up to me, I know it will catch up to you. The other thing I'll mention about this timing thing, that everyone thinks that they have the prowess to do this. How do you know where the top is anyway? What if you think the top on this cycle is 150,000? And you say, you know what, Oliver, at 150,000, I'm going to sell a big portion of my stack. I'm going to put the cash to the sidelines and I'm going to wait for the next drop and put that in. And I'm going to wind up with more Bitcoin than I would have if I just hold through the decline and continue to dollar cost average. What if it goes to 500,000? Now what? Now what do you do? And then what if the next drop is from 5,000 to 300? I guarantee you, you don't take it and go back in at 300. I guarantee you, because once you exit with that money for a gain, it is psychologically nearly impossible to put it back in at a higher price. Most people don't have the psychological fortitude to do that. Most people will not suffer the feeling of being suckered. So they'll stay out. This is why many of your Bitcoin OGs have no Bitcoin today. They sold at $5 when they got it at 5 cents, feeling like a freaking hero. I would have done the same thing, to be honest with you. And now that when it went to $50, when they sold at 5 and it went to 50, their attitude was, there's no way I'm buying that at $50. I bought it at 5 cents. Get out of here. And now it's at 5,000. There's no way I'm buying it at 5,000 when I bought it at 5 cents. There's no way I'm buying it at 50,000 and I bought it at 5 cents. There are people today that sold out of Bitcoin in the last cycle. They were waiting for Bitcoin 10,000 to go back in. It never came. Then it rocketed to 30. Then they said, well, I'm waiting for it to come back to 10,000 still. Then it went to 40,000. Then maybe they raised their price. Well, I'll wait for 20,000. Then it went to 50,000. Then they said, well, you know what? I'll wait for it to come back to 30,000. Then it went to 60,000. Do you know the number of stories of people that wind up letting freedom go and never getting it back again? That the number of stories overwhelmingly outnumber by an exponential amount those that timed it perfectly at the top and had the money 18 months later to go back in. You don't know where the top is. Nobody does. Everyone in the past, guys, you can look at the forums over the past 15 years. They're all Bitcoin-less. They had 10,000, 50,000, 40,000 Bitcoin. They have zero Bitcoin today because of this very thing. Selling when it's high, when they thought it was high. Bitcoin going higher, then crashing, but the crash is nowhere near where they sold. They sold out at $5 because they bought it at 5 cents. But it went to 50 and crashed back down to 15. 15 is nowhere near $5 where they sold it, and they still don't go in at 15. And they're out of it forever. And this is what's turned many of your old Bitcoin OGs into shitcoiners because feeling dejected and having lost their opportunity with Bitcoin, they now go to something else that their little bit of profit can get a lot of. Well, maybe this is the next opportunity for me. Maybe this is the next Bitcoin. There are the numbers of shitcoiners today that had tens of thousands of Bitcoin in the past. It's astounding. And it's astounding because of this very thing that I'm explaining to you right now. We don't know where the top is. I don't pi indicator, um, uh, you know, this strategy has predicted all of Bitcoin's tops over the last 3 cycles. Bullshit. The time you try it, I promise you, it won't work. It always happens. You'll find something that on paper has worked every single time. And when you do it, it won't work. I know some of you have been there. I'm not the only one. The other thing, let's say you got lucky. Let's say you followed one of these BS indicators. Oh, this is the top. It's the pi indicator. It's the this and the that, the da, 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 da. And you sell the top by luck. Who says that you're going to know where the bottom is? Do you know how many people are still waiting for $10,000 Bitcoin today? They thought they knew where the bottom was, 10,000. Some people thought the bottom was 3,000 last cycle. Some people thought the bottom was 12,000. Because many of these timers thought the bottom was 3,000, 10,000, 12,000, and it never got there, they started shorting the rallies, and they're still shorting the rallies. Dejected, depressed. I don't care what they show online. I don't care how confident they seem. Inside, all of them are dejected. They got the 3 Ds, right? Dejected, depressed, disappointed. And they're trying to get back at Bitcoin by shorting into strength. All of my career, I taught traders, you short weakness, you don't short strength. They're shorting into strength, getting decimated. Their faces are getting melt off. Why? Because inside they feel dejected, depressed, and disappointed by Bitcoin because it didn't go down to the level they thought it should go down to 10,000, 12,000, 3,000. So how do you know that you're going to be able to determine where should you start? You got lucky and sold the top, but where should you start? You see, something psychologically happens to a player once they realize the game. Once they put the cash in their pocket, they become defensive. You see, they're not as defensive if it's inside of the item, but when they take it out of the item, it becomes something that they need to protect now. So now putting that back in becomes a higher risk than it really is just leaving it there. You don't want to lose it. I made 50,000 on this run up. I don't want to lose it by picking the wrong point to go in. So they're careful. They're extra careful. Maybe it's going to be lower. Maybe it's going to drop more. I don't want to lose my $50,000 game. It starts to become a guessing game, a fear-based approach. It's wrong. You're not going to know where the bottom is. And let's say, not only did you get lucky selling near the top, you also got lucky by penning the bottom. Let's say this cycle, you killed it. You got lucky twice. Who says 18 months, 12 months, 16 months, 18 months later, when it's time to get back in, you still have every single penny sitting, waiting to go back in. Think about this, guys. How many of you realistically are not going to touch the gain you pulled out? Come on. I know you. I know market players for 4 decades. I know you're not going to have the money. I know you're going to fuck it up. You're going to take the gain you pulled out and go into some shit coin or try something else. That money is going to burn a freaking hole in your pocket. And when it's time to really go back into freedom again, you're not even going to have a pittance of what you pulled out of it. You will have lost it, used it on something, bought a car. Your wife would have convinced you to put a down payment on the house with it, taken a vacation, and now the bottom is here, which you luckily penned again. And you now don't have the amount that you pulled out. Or you have the amount, but you can't because now it's time for your daughter to graduate and you need the money for graduation. Or life intervenes some way, your mother's sick, or whatever it is. If it was in, it wouldn't be an issue because it's in, it's not there. But because it's in your pocket, because it's in your bank account, life comes after what you're holding on the side. Do you know that? Hasn't that really happened to you? That once you pull something out of something and you put it on the side, that's when life says, oh, really? He's got something on the side? And it starts to descend on you. Your uncle needs this. Your mother needs that. Your kids need that. Your wife just crashed the car. Life starts coming after you. You're not going to have the same amount that you pulled out. You're not going to pen the top. You're not going to pen the bottom. You're going to fuck this up. I am telling you. That's the worst approach, trying to time the tops and the bottoms. And I know all of you think that you're some freaking magical trader that has greater skill than 99% of all the professional traders out there, and they get wrecked trading Bitcoin. I know you think you're special, but I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry, you're not special. And so we need to stay humble about this, guys. It only works in your dreams. It only works in the movie in your mind that you're mapping out for yourself. You can be the hero in your dreams, and you can be the hero in the script that you're writing for yourself in your mind. But in real life, you're going to mess the biggest wealth opportunity that the human race has ever been exposed to. And this is the first one that's available to every single human being on planet Earth. Never before in the history of the world has a huge wealth opportunity been available to every human being on Earth. This is the first one. It's a paradigm shift. It's a new era where opportunity is for every human being, not just for the elite, not just for the emperors, not just for the kings, not just for the feudal lords, and not just for the wealthy, and not just for the politically elite. For the first time, Bitcoin is available to every single human being on earth. And it has given you a 15-year history of being number one, being the best, having nothing close to it to prove to you. Stop playing around with me. It wants to tell you, stop playing around with me. This is not something that you give away. This is not something that you exchange for the inferior. This is something that you cherish. It's something that you keep. It's something that you adore. For the first time in your freaking life, try to find some loyalty to something. You've got 15 years of proof. It is screaming at you, in fact, begging you to see it for what it is. The brightest thing that we've ever had. At this point, it's not coming to you as something that's an idea 15 years. It's not coming to you as something that might happen 15 years. It's not coming to you as some grandiose proposition, a project, incomplete, written on paper, a blueprint. It's freaking built. It's freaking proven. It's 15 years old. What do you need? Another 15 years? It has broken every single record we had. What else do you need? More records? In my business, I was always taught, Oliver, I was always taught in my business, 10 years is the truth, that you can't fake 10 years. This is what is taught in the financial world, right? That you can fake 1 year. You can get lucky 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but you can't get lucky 10 years. That the 10-year record of a money manager doesn't lie. I was taught that if you want to know what mutual fund to bet on, make sure they have a 10-year solid record of consistency. You want to bet on a hedge fund? You want to bet on a money manager? You want 10 solid years of consistency, because 2 years is not enough. They can get lucky. They could just be in the right market at the right time. That doesn't show anything. But 10 years is enough time to go through enough market environments, enough political turmoil, enough left hooks and surprises and political happenings. And if the person, the firm, the entity has maintained consistency through all of that over a 10-year period, you can, without a shadow of a doubt, know that's real, that's skill, that's talent, that's capability. We've got 15 years with Bitcoin. What else do you need? 40 more years? We've got living proof that if you just held, you'd be okay. You'd be wealthier today. If you just kept DCAing when the times got rough and you just kept DCAing today, if you started your DCAing program every week from the very high in November of 2021, 69,000, that was your first entry, that $100 a week. And every single week, all the way down to 15,500, you put that $100 every single week in. Do you know how profitable you are today? You're up 45%. Go look it up now. How many money managers are up 45% over that period? Almost none of them. Do you understand? Do you understand that 85% of all professionals fail to beat the S&P 500 every single year? 85% of the people you're supposed to pay to take care of you cannot beat the S&P 500. Do you know by how much Bitcoin has beat the S&P 500? Do you realize that if you were to just buy the S&P 500, that you could literally raise your hand and say, I'm in the top 15% of all professionals on planet Earth? Just with one purchase of the S&P 500, you're in the top 15% of every single professional on planet Earth. You're the elite just buying the S&P. Well, I'm telling you, if you buy just Bitcoin, you can raise your hand and say, I am the number one in the world. You don't sell number one for number 25. You don't sell the Mona Lisa for a drawing by your neighbor's kid, for your neighbor, a drawing made by your neighbor's kid. You don't sell number one for number 7, number 17, number 5, even number 2. What you do is when it goes on sale, you pick up more of number 1. You don't flip it to number 17. Find some freaking loyalty Stick to your guns for once in your life. Stand your ground. Be a man, be a woman. Understand that life is not perfect all the time and that you're going to have to deal with some dark days and deal with it. And don't buckle every single little wind that goes by. Don't get frightened and scared. But Oliver, it's volatile. Dude, life is volatile. What do you want from me? Life is up and down. Deal with it. We've got a 15-year track record that says if you use the down, if you DCA into the down, you'll be up 40%, 50%, and eventually 100%. Right now, Bitcoin is not that far off of its high of 69,000. 96%, 96 to 98%. I think it's 96%. No, it's close to 98% of every single person that's holding Bitcoin is in profit today. 98%. It's don't quote me on that number, guys. It's 96 or 98. It's somewhere in that range. Today, right now, 96 to 98% of every single Bitcoiner in the entire world is in profit today. Your $100 a week purchases buys a lot at 15,000, buys less at 60,000. But that's what you're supposed to do. Buy heavier low, buy lighter late. So DCA forces you into a professional approach to playing this freedom game. I think I beat that horse pretty dead here. If the ultimate goal is to have more Bitcoin, then isn't down good? Yes, because down only allows us to get more. If Bitcoin represents freedom, don't you want more freedom? Or do you want to flip out of freedom? These timers or traders of Bitcoin, you know what they remind me of? Some prisoners. They're prisoners that have gotten very used to life as a prisoner. They got little, they've developed some craft in prison, and they do woodwork, and they've got a bunch of these little wooden trinkets that they built during wood shopping time in prison. Got them all around, got a few of their favorite little wood pieces strewn around their little tiny prison cell. In paint class, they've drawn some paintings that they have an affinity for, and they tape them on the wall of their prison. They might even have gotten rights to have a little black and white TV in there, in a little frickin' prison cell. Nice and comfy. 3 hots and a cot. And someone says, well, now it's time to exit. Here's the exit door. You can leave. Here is your exit. That's your freedom right there. And the gates open. And these timers are like, well, oh my God, freedom. All right, yeah. The sun, the brightness, the air, no bars, this and that. And right at the gate, right before exiting, they say to the guard, but wait a minute. When should I come back? What? Yeah, when should I come back? Like, when should I know I'm going out to freedom, but when should I come back to prison? When should I come back to the dollar? When should I come back to this traditional system that has been robbing me, that has kept me in prison, that makes me work harder every 4 years of my life? When do I come back to that? When is it appropriate out there when I'm experiencing freedom? When do I come back? You see how freaking stupid that is? And I'm the guard that says, okay, bozo, let me explain something to you. You're about to experience freedom. I can't promise you that every day is going to be sunny, but you're going to experience some clouds. You're going to experience some amazing days. You're going to experience some rains and every now and then a hurricane and a storm. But guess what? You'll experience all of that as a free man. You'll feel the rain on your face as a free man. Yeah, you'll have a storm, but you'll snuggle up under your blanket with your family or a loved one as a free man. You don't want to come back here. What are you thinking? I am the guard telling you to get the fuck out and stay out. Get out of this system with Bitcoin. And let me just tell you this. If you are scared you have too much, I am not one of these Bitcoiners that believes that you have to be all in. All right? That you can only be in up to the level of your conviction. If the volatility scares you, go down to the point where it doesn't scare you then and get your conviction up. Because if you're overexposed to the point where every little tick makes you a little tiny sissy shaking in your freaking boots, then you've got too much. Get to a point where you're comfortable. I don't care if it drops 20,000, 30,000 points. I'll buy more. Wherever that point is, find it. And then keep studying Bitcoin, keep looking into it, keep staying close to me, get your conviction up so that that number can go up in the future. Because as you understand what Bitcoin is and what it represents, as that conviction and that understanding rises, so does the level of Bitcoin that you want rise. If you go past that level, you're going to be going to be tricked into doing something stupid, and you're going to wind up being like these Bitcoin OGs that let it go because they were scared of the next drop. I'm scared, Oliver, of the next drop. I want to protect my gains. I'm going to protect my gains, Oliver. So I'm going to sell here. And then it just rockets past them and they never get back in again. I don't want to be them. I don't want to be one of those memes. I don't want to be one of those stories of someone who had thousands of Bitcoin and later I have none and I'm talking about some shitcoin because I missed my opportunity. Not me. Not me. Ride through it. Get your DCA plan, your lump sum plan in place and ride through it. Be an adult. Deal with it. Use the volatility. Do you realize that when you DCA, you eliminate like 90% of the volatility? You want volatility as a DCAer. You beg for volatility as a DCAer. You want declines as a DCAer. You're not afraid of them. Man up. Another thing I want to mention, you are not buying Bitcoin. I know we say this because it's just the conventional language to say I'm buying Bitcoin. You're not buying Bitcoin. You're converting the weak into the strong. You're converting something that 4 years later will buy you less into something that 4 years later will buy you more. I'm going to repeat that. You are not buying Bitcoin. Every time you DCA, you are not buying Bitcoin. You're converting into Bitcoin. Every time you lump sum in, you are not lump summing. That lump sum is not a purchase of Bitcoin. Don't disrespect Bitcoin like that. It's not some freaking trinket or some piece of, it's not a television set. You're converting the weak into the strong. You have two things. You've got Bitcoin over here. You've got dollars here. You're guaranteed these dollars 4 years from now will buy you less than they buy today. Guaranteed. We've got 15 years to prove it. Bitcoin, 4 years later, this is going to buy you more than it buys you today. Which one do you want to convert into? You want to keep what's going to buy you less, or you want to convert into what's going to buy you more? So it is not a purchase, it's a conversion. When you change $1 into 4 quarters, you don't say, can I purchase 4 quarters from you? No, you're changing the nature of this, of money, of value. You understand? You're changing one form of value for another. You're not purchasing it, you're changing it. Understand this. And why is this important? Because you'll stop this nonsense of it looking like it's a trade. I bought in here. No, you exchanged the weak from the strong there. You exchanged the weak for the strong there. This is no different from what Venezuelans do with the Venezuelan bolivar, which is garbage. It's trash. It's strewn all over the streets in Venezuela because it's practically worthless. They change bolivars for the dollar. Now I know because of linguistic norms that they say I'm buying dollars. I get it, but it's really changing for dollars. They're changing one weak form of value. They get paid in bolivars and they change it as quickly as they can into dollars because tomorrow those bolivars are worth 50% less. That's guaranteed. So they change it into something that's not going to be 50% less tomorrow. US dollars. Well, we work for US dollars that are going to be less 4 years from now. We change it into something that's going to be worth more 4 years from now. We're not purchasing, we're converting. Very important mindset to take on. Venezuelans understand this, Argentinians understand this, and many, 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 many others. The Turks understand it. Many Africans understand it. BTC is not an investment. BTC is not a trade. BTC is savings. It's saving your freaking life. That's what it is. It is the savior. It is the world's best savings technology. You realize that savings was taken from the human race by the elites. The elites took savings away so that we would have to work for them. They took it away. Your great-great-grandparents saved. We can't save. Your grandparents saved. You can't save today. In fact, 99% of you are negative through debt, through credit cards and mortgages and car loans, and you're negative. You're not freaking saving. Savings has been robbed from the human race so that we have to work. We've been forced to go into debt. We've been forced to try to stay ahead of things by becoming a freaking investment expert. Bitcoin has come to save us from all of that bullshit. Bitcoin just says, look, I'm the safest thing in the world. I'm the most secure vault in the world. Just put anything that you don't need, give it to me. I got you. I got you. And I promise every 4 years, I'm going to make this thing grow. I'm going to multiply whatever you give me. And stop focusing on the hour by hour price, the day by day, the month by month, even the year by year. Every birthday, check the price. It'll be exponentially higher. Every 4 years. Every 4 years, check the purchasing power of your dollars. It'll be lower. Check the value of Bitcoin. Every 4 years, it will be higher. Which one do you want to save in? Bitcoin's not a trade. You trade things in the corrupt system. You don't trade Bitcoin. You invest in things in the corrupt system. You don't invest in Bitcoin. You escape to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is your escape. It is your freedom. You don't come back to the system that you've just gotten free from. Last point here. Yeah, I got through all of them. Wow. Last point. What if there were a way to combine them all? Dollar cost average, lump sum, dollar cost average a portion of what you earn. Go out into the world and mine dollars. That's what every single day of your life, you are mining the man's money. You are mining someone else's coupon that they control. They have taught you to get educated to mine their money. They've taught you to go into debt to mine their money, to work for them, their money. They made the money. They control the money. They drew the pictures on it. They decided what pictures are. We're going to put a little pyramid on the right-hand side, and we're going to put a little eyeball in that just to let them know that we're always watching them. They drew their little pictures on their money, and they told you, now wake up every single day, go out into the world and work for my money, slave. And you do this every day of your life. And then they say, every 4 years, we're going to make you have to work harder, by the way, until you die. And that's the game that you're playing. That's the prison that we're in. That's the plantation as slaves that we're on. And Bitcoin is the exit. Bitcoin is the escape out of the whole plantation, out of the prison. Do you understand? And you can do it covertly. I'm not saying go all in with your life. I'm not saying do that. I'm just saying if you got something on the side that you don't need, put it there. Put it there. Keep putting it there. Oh, I don't need this. Put it there. Oh, I don't need this either. Put it there. Oh, I just got a lump sum. I didn't expect it. Put it there. Lump sum it in. All right. Take a portion of the money that you're forced to work for and convert that weak shit into the strong. Do you understand? Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And at a certain point, Bitcoin's going to say, you know what? It's time to go. You're done with them. You're done with that. It's time to be totally free. Walk out of the gate now. We're done with that. Leave them behind. Yeah. I digress. Can we mix it all? Can we do DCA and lump sum and trade a little bit? Yes. Now, I know this might surprise some of you because I'm totally against trading Bitcoin. And this is something that I do delve. We go into this, and with my Bitcoiners, I go into this. But we're not going to trade Bitcoin. Do you understand? We're going to trade the ancillary items around Bitcoin. So those are MicroStrategy, and now the ETFs, and sometimes the miners. Those are the tradable items. Don't trade Bitcoin. But I will tell you, I will use the ETFs to add an income stream to my Bitcoin. Oh, yes. The ETFs, while I will never put a single penny into an ETF because that's not freedom, that's another financial product in the system on the slave plantation. I'm not saying that it's not for anyone, but it's not for me, and it's not for the vast majority of you either. But can we use it? Can we use their item to our benefit? Yes, I can use those ETFs to add an income stream. You know, everyone says, but Bitcoin doesn't have income. Well, now it does, buddy. What do you have to say about that? I can use the ETFs to generate an income stream on my Bitcoin stash, and I will do so. I can hedge against the Bitcoin drop using MicroStrategy, using the Bitcoin ETFs. I can diminish the effect of Bitcoin's next downward move. So if its next downward move is 60%, maybe I experience 5% or 10%, or maybe I even turn the downward move into a plus. You see, all of these additional products that are being built around Bitcoin allow us the trading side. My point is, don't trade your stash, because history, statistics clearly show you'll wind up being just like the OG Bitcoiners that had tens of thousands of Bitcoin and have zero today. Don't give up your freedom. Don't ever let it go to another man. It's gone forever. It will never see the light of day. But I will use their other shit to add a cherry on top here and there, to add an income stream, to hedge some of Bitcoin's downward move. And so there can be that trading aspect to it, just not on the freedom item itself. And there you have it, traders, Bitcoiners, followers, supporters, haters. That's my talk today. I hope you found something of value here. Whoa, hour and a half. I've gone long enough. I've gone the maximum of what I wanted to go. So I won't be able to take any of your questions here. Maybe I'll get a chance to type some of my answers to your questions. So still ask them if you have them. But I hope you found something of value. If by any chance I've disappointed you in any way, if you found nothing of value here today, I promise you, stick around. I'll get better and better every single time. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your night, your evening, your morning, wherever you are in the world. And don't forget, stack harder. Ciao for now. Oh. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!